Thank you, Lord Jesus, for giving this wonderful day, Lord Jesus. And Lord, Father, I pray that you will be with us. And Father, as we are about to go.
Mr. Suresh Joseph joined the Indian Railway Traffic Service in 1981 after a graduate program in economics from Loyola College, Chennai, and a postgraduate program in economics from St. Stephen's College, Delhi. Postgraduate diploma in management from the Management Development Industrial Relations from the prestigious London School of Economics. In 2005, Mr. Joseph retired voluntarily from civil service and joined Dubai Ports World as a general manager in Cochin. He took a break from his professional engagements in 2010 to pursue a dream that had been his for more than a decade, and that is of traveling solo all across the huge expanse of the Indian landscape in a Maruti Swift. The 124-day solo drive took him to all the state capitals and railway headquarters. Between July 2012 and June 2013, he undertook 4 solo national expeditions by car, setting new records. Between June and August 2014, Mr. Suresh Joseph became the first Indian to drive an Indian registered car from Cochin to London in 75 days across 27 countries and over 24,000 kilometers. Another first was when he drove his solo from Cochin to Singapore and back in 77 days between February and May 2015. He was also the first person to successfully complete the Trans-Himalayan expedition solo in 2015. Then he completed the 21,000 kilometer Trans-Siberian expedition in May-June 2016, driving an XUV 500 from Chennai to St. Petersburg, Russia, through Myanmar and China, becoming the first Indian again to drive solo across the third longest highway in the world, the Trans-Siberian Highway. Now the list goes on. He currently holds 3 world and 15 national driving records recognized by the Limca Book of Records, India Book of Records, and the International Book of Records, having successfully completed 13 national and international road expeditions in 10 years. Besides being a motivational speaker and contributing articles to many publications, he has also authored 8 books, of which 7 are travelogues. Now, the latest publication is titled as Maple, Moose and Me, which is based on the 2019 road expedition in Canada. Professionally, his experience includes in general administration, surface transport, port development, and multi-modal logistics in public and private sectors, and is currently working as a consultant based out of Chennai. It's a privilege to have you, sir, amidst us, and now I'm handing it over to you, sir.
Thank you so much for the wonderful introduction. And taking on from your introduction, I would like to first greet the youngsters and tell them as to why I travel alone. As you have known from the introduction, I have done 10 out of my 13 expeditions all alone. So why is it that I travel alone? As you would all know, as members of a family, as members of an institution, as members of organizations, we all find time to spend quality time with our peers, with our friends, our family, organizational members, and etc. However, when I introspected a little bit, I found that we do not take so much of effort to spend enough time with ourselves. And it is most important. Over a period of time, I found that what improves a person is the amount of time that you spend to introspect about yourself. It is not to gloat about what you have done or to mourn about what you have not done, but it is to actually go into yourself, a kind of a meditative approach to decide what is it that you are doing in life, what is it that life means to you. So therefore, since I have been working over the last more than 35 years, I was not able to take time off to spend time with myself. So therefore, I use these car expeditions, particularly after 2010, to introspect, to use these solo drives as a time to ask myself very inconvenient questions, face the mirror, so to say, and then decide on what my life's goals are. What is it that I have done with life? And where is it that I want to reach? Or what is it that I am trying to achieve? And I found that over these last 10, 11 years that I have been driving solo, it has changed me considerably. I will come to that later because how it has changed me are the kind of lessons that I have learned from these kind of travels. But believe me, this is something which I feel has come slightly late in life, but it has definitely come. So there is no such time as trying to wait for the right kind of time to decide on when you should improve yourself. We all need improvement at whatever stage or whatever age that we are in. So therefore, I have used these 11 years of solo travel to further myself as a person, as an organization man, as a parent, as a child. There are different roles that we play, and all these roles require refinement. And if you are actually honest with yourself, you will realize that unless you ask these questions, you will never come out with answers how to improve yourself. So that is the reason why I travel alone. The second reason why I travel alone is also because I like to do things which have not been done in the past. So most of my drives have been to places or to undertake ventures which have never been attempted before. For instance, the drive to London from India. There are many people who have driven from the continent into India, but from India, nobody had traveled before 2014 to London by car. So that was something which was a brand new venture. Nobody had done a solo drive on the Trans-Siberian Highway. So many of these expeditions are dangerous adventures or things that we know very little about. So therefore, I always felt that when you involve more people in these kind of new adventures or the new kind of ventures, it is also a very high risk event or a kind of a project. So therefore, I thought that it was always better to undertake these all by myself and then leave notes and also leave what you call dialogues for others to follow that up into the future. So these are the two major reasons why I travel alone. Now, one of my very, very firm beliefs over these past years is that youngsters must travel. It is something which I have encouraged in my own children. I have two children. My daughter is 35, she's based in Botswana, and my son is 21, based in Cochin. So I have encouraged them right from a very young age to travel. Now, why is it that youngsters must travel? We must understand, and I'm sure you will definitely accept the fact that we are increasingly living in an era where intolerance and ignorance are the main watchwords. We do not want to open ourselves up to different viewpoints, to different thought processes, to different ideas, ideals. We don't want to open ourselves. We are sort of getting more and more closed. But travel, believe me, travel is something which will completely open up a totally different world for you. It's an entirely different world out there. But you will realize that it is not an aggressive or a threatening environment out there. Not at all. You will realize that there are so many things in common. In fact, one of the learnings that I've had, which I'll come to later, one of my learnings is that man is the same everywhere. Everywhere in the world, man is the same because we all react to similar kind of stimuli. If you pinch another person, he will say, ouch. If you find a process that can make you laugh, everyone laughs. So man is the same everywhere. It is just that, the environment gives him a kind of a garb or the different kind of a culture which makes him stand out, makes that person stand out. But actually people are the same. So the environment is not so threatening. So we need to go out there. We need to explore. And we also need to understand best practices from all over the world. And that is the only way in which we can accept new things, new ideas, new projects, and then be the bulwarks on which the country will build itself. So we have to be the change agents. You youngsters have to be the change agents. For that, you need to benchmark yourself against what is the best in the rest of the world. The second thing is that you have to get out of your comfort zone. We are all happy living in our homes. We are all happy living in our the cities that we are comfortable in. In fact, I was a guest speaker at one of the management institutes, which was which very well-known management institute in Cochin, which used to train about 140 to 150 management graduates every year. In fact, one of the challenges which they had faced initially was to find placements for their students outside Kerala. So once when I went there, I was told with a lot of pride by one of the professors there that they were able to place three of their students in Bombay and Delhi. But then, following up on that, I asked them about their experiences. How, what the companies that they had been placed in, and what were their experiences. I was aghast to know that within 3 months, all these three people came back to their hometowns because they said that they couldn't adjust to the new environment which they found in Bombay and Delhi. Now, this is something which is not, I feel, good for our generation, good for this generation, because the world is a global village. The whole world is today available in your palm, so to say. And to say that I will not move from my street across the street to another place is actually cocooning yourself and bringing yourself, I would say, limiting your opportunities. There are opportunities available all over the world. When I traveled in Canada, I was so happy to see Indians surviving so well in some of the more, I would say the climatic environments may be a bit difficult, but all the same, professionally, they have done exceptionally well. So therefore, I would want you to consider the whole world as the canvas in which you can impact. So therefore, we need to get out of our comfort zones. Our homes, parents, teachers are all there to mentor us, but they are also there to make sure that you use your wings to fly. The wings are not there for you to just tiptoe in your room. No, they're meant to make you fly. So, young friends, you must dream about a much larger world in which there are opportunities available for you. Having said all this, now I would like to tell you about the 10 major lessons that I have learned from my travel. The first thing, which is a philosophy for life, is that I have learned to plan to succeed. I plan for success. Everybody, I have worked in government for more than 25 years. The first thing that happens when you go and present a report or present a kind of a strategy before a committee or a group of officers, the first thing that they ask you is, okay, this is your plan A. What is your plan B? I would say that my plan B is plan A itself. When you talk about a plan B, you are already deciding that your plan A will be failure. No, you have to make your plan a success. And how do you make this a success? By planning for it threadbare. Whatever documents are available, whatever details are available, whatever information is available, you must take as much time as you want or can to plan. Planning is the most important part of a process of execution. It doesn't matter whether you take 5 days extra to do the planning, but you must have a zero failure rate on the execution front. Normally what happens is, you please go through some of the projects you may have done or some places where you may have fallen short. You will find that we have spent very little time in planning for the project. We have spent a lot of time for execution. And why is it that we take more time for execution? Because the planning process was not done adequately. We find a lot of things to hone as we go about, a lot of midlife, the project midlife crisis happening. You will have to change track. So spend as much time as you can, cull as much information as you can, and plan for success. Because I feel that there is what is called self-fulfilling prophecies. Because if you plan for failure, that project is bound to fail. And you are bound to talk about plan Bs and plan Cs. That will get you nowhere. Plan A properly and execute it. So plan for success. The second is, when you undertake solo drives or go to places which you have not been before, you start the process of conquering the fear of the unknown. If I ask you, what is the biggest fear that mankind faces? It is certainly death, isn't it? And why is it that we fear death? We fear death because nobody knows anything about it. You don't know the process, you don't know where you're going, and you don't know when it is going to happen. So these are all imponderable. So therefore, there is a fear of that unknown. If we know that something is going to happen, probably that is why we visit astrologers with such alacrity. We are very fond of showing our palms and our astrological charts to many people because we want to know what is the future. Now if the future is certain, then I can plan for it much more certainly. But life is not that certain. Life is very uncertain. A year back, this very same day, if you were told in 2020 that the world is going to be shut down for a year, would you have believed anyone? Not at all. That was an unexpected. But the way this country planned to meet that unknown is something which is a study in great management success. It is a wonderful way in which the country as a whole, led by the government and the Prime Minister, we handled it so well that we were able to show the rest of the world that we can handle things much better than most of them could in the so-called civilized and advanced countries. Just as India beat Australia at Brisbane the other day, we could show that even a second-level team can beat the best of the world, provided you have the intent, you have the passion. So therefore, when you start conquering the fear of the unknown, you come to the third aspect, which is you learn to accept and also to enjoy the unexpected. Just imagine if your life was absolutely flat, with no ups and downs, everything is known, there is no unknown at all. How boring would that life be? It is all these unknowns in our lives, it is all these variables, not the constants, the variables in our life which make our life so very exciting to live. When we have flat lines in our life, it is like a dead man's pulse. Nothing happens, the man doesn't move, he doesn't breathe, he's dead. So our lives would be very boring and it would be dead if we did not have the ups and downs. And believe me, any downside in life will always have an upside. Never ever be down because you think that something has happened which has put you down. No, I'll come to that later by stringing this particular aspect. But as I said, you must learn to enjoy the unexpected, and I learned to do that. And if you do that, what happens next is again very sequential. You will start forgetting about the past. You will only use the past as a reference point, as a learning point. If you do not learn from the past, you make a big mistake. But it is only the learning which you must take. Never, never mourn what has happened in the past. Don't dwell on the past. You take that, because our life is not all about successes. And who defines success in your life? It is you. It is not somebody else who has to define your success. You must define that success. I feel that, life is like playing a game of golf. In golf, you don't compete with anyone. You're competing with yourself. You're trying to improve your handicap. So similarly, in life too, you're trying to improve yourself. You're trying to set your own goals. Don't let others set goals for you. And don't try to be another. You just try to be yourself. And God has given us such capabilities that instead of trying to appreciate and actually build on those strengths and the kind of abilities and talents that God has given us, we try to look at another and keep on bemoaning the fact that we don't have those talents. Your talents are hidden within you. And in fact, I'm sure the last 8-10 months that you have spent largely indoors, you must have developed some talents or some kind of discovered certain inner strengths which you now can build on, because you have realized that these are some of the things which you never had, you probably never realized it. For instance, this is something which happened to me. When I was young, I was an excellent bathroom singer. in the sense that I could sing to my heart's content in a bathroom. But when I came out of the bathroom, I was struck by stage fright. I could never sing in front of people. But over the last 8 months, from March onwards, I've been staying at home, and there's nobody who can say that I cannot sing it in my house. So I started singing, and then I've taken up that as a kind of a hobby now. And I've started singing songs, I've started recording them and putting them on YouTube. And these are the kind of things, which you discover, and you find that your life takes on a totally different dimension. And this happens when, you don't listen to the rest of them. You just shut your ears to what others have to say, saying that you can't do it. Forget it. The past you have learned. Use that as a reference point for living the present. You make your present most enjoyable. And these present days will become your past. They become every day that you spend becomes a string of the past. And the way you enjoy your present, you will be paving your future. So unless you enjoy your present, you cannot have a better future. The next lesson, as I already told you, is that man is the same everywhere. When I say man, I'm talking about mankind. I'm not being gender biased. So mankind is the same everywhere. You will find, you look across civilizations. They have faced the same kind of difficulties. They have faced the same kind of aggressions from another species. They have tried to weather the same kind of storms. They have been through different climatic conditions. So all that has happened between a person, say, in Africa and a person living in India are the difference in the climatic conditions, the difference in their cultures, what they eat and what they drink and how they clothe themselves. That is all. Intrinsically, mankind is the same everywhere on the globe. It is just that their practices are different. And you will discover this very pleasantly as you go across. You will be able to relate yourself seamlessly across the globe. I assure you this because I have traveled to more than 50 countries in the world. And I have never been threatened anywhere that where I felt, I shall answer your question sometime later. Yeah. I have never felt threatened anywhere. I have been to some of the most difficult places on the planet, but I have felt welcomed as long as you're willing to trust anyone. That brings me to the next point, that everybody's reaction to you, you must understand, is a reaction. It is not his action. It is the way you behave. It is the way you put forth yourself that makes the other person react to you. So if there is somebody who is not being good with you, it is because of your action. Please try to internalize it, and then you will see a totally different world. It is not because the other person wants to misbehave with you. It is probably some vibes which you have sent out, which has set that other person onto the wrong track. So try to internalize it yourself, and then you will find that the world is not as aggressive or bad as you think it is. It is the way that you have to interact with that world. When you interact in a proper fashion, you will get that back in kind and also in spirit. There are a lot of people who have asked me as to when is the right time to start traveling. There is no such thing as the right time. Now, this is the time. So whenever you decide that time is the right time to travel. You know how I realized this? I have always, right from when I was a student, I've been wanting to write. I always envied authors. But then, I had a lot of ideas. I had a lot of things which I thought I should put to paper. But then I could never get myself to decide as to where I should start. So I was working in a railway division called Bilaspur in present-day Chhattisgarh, where I came across a colleague, railway officer, who was an author, a very celebrated writer. So I went to him with this situation. I said, I do not know when to start and how to start writing. He said, you just put down your thoughts, random thoughts, as they come to your mind. Just write it down in the diary, and you will find that you will get into a kind of a rhythm where you will discover what you want to write and what is the kind of flow that you want to do. And this is exactly what I discovered with my first travel in 2010. When I travel alone, there is one more peculiarity. I don't keep in touch with my family, my wife and children. I don't talk to them. I don't get in touch with them for two reasons. One is, this is the time when I'm also taking to build to empower my family. My wife and children get the time to develop their own confidence, their ability to take decisions, and also the ability to internalize and take responsibilities. And I found that over the last 10 years, they have become immensely confident, and today I am very sure that they are capable of leading a life which they would want to, and also they take the kind, and they feel that they take the right kind of decisions, and then they are empowered. That is one of the things. The second reason why we don't communicate often, or we don't communicate at all, is because when I'm so far away, maybe 15,000 kilometers away from home, if I have a problem and if I'm going to share it with them, they can only feel upset. They cannot do anything to assist me. And if they have a problem and they're going to tell me, that is going to impact what I'm going to do here 15,000 kilometers away. So therefore, there is, I would say that there is no gain on both sides. So therefore, I somehow felt that it is always best that they handle the situation. I will handle the situation where I am, and let them handle the situation where they are. So therefore, in 2010, when I started on my All India drive, I devised this concept of writing a blog. I started my blog when I left on the 1st of October 2010 from Ernakulam on my All India drive, which was a 124-day experience in a Maruti Swift. So this blog served as a communication tool between friends, family, and myself. They knew exactly what I was doing, what I have seen, who I have interacted with, what I had what kind of foods I'm experiencing, all those kind of things. So I used it as a kind of a communication tool. And later on, when I returned from my trip, I got that all those blogs edited and came out with my first book called Ek Swift Bharat Yatra. This is exactly what I do even today, 11 years later. This is a communication tool. The blog is my communication tool with my family. The eighth thing which I want to tell you, there are three more lessons. I'll be very brief because I know that I'm running out of time. I have learned to look at life as a macro, not as a micro. In the sense, I would like to explain it. All of us are in Chennai. I don't know how many of you knew about Kattipara Junction of the past, not after this butterfly flyover has come up. Before that, Kattipara was a nightmare. I remember having got stuck there every time I wanted to go to the airport, or traversing on that route was a total nightmare. But those days when I was in Container Corporation of India, I used to commute quite a bit between Chennai and Bangalore by planes. And once when I was landing in Chennai, I looked down and I found that Kattipara Junction was moving around so orderly. The vehicles were moving in such an orderly fashion that I was quite amazed when I saw this. But after I landed, picked up my luggage and got into a taxi and reached Kattipara Junction, I found the kind of nightmare that is the junction. Then I realized, the view that you get from the aircraft is the kind of view that God gets from the heavens above. When he looks from there, he finds that everything is moving around in very, very orderly fashion. So therefore, that is a macro view. That is a macro view. So when he decides to intervene, he will intervene to ensure that the macro is not affected. So therefore, most of us, we pray very ardently. We wish for things, and then finally we say, oh my God, I've prayed so much, I've still not got it. But believe that what you're experiencing at the Kattipara Junction, that is the micro. That, according to the macro plan, is going on well. So when there is need for your life to be intervened in the micro, that intervention will come. You do your bit and wait for the Almighty or the cosmic circles to do their bit. So therefore, look at life as a macro. Each piece or each day, each event, each thing that you do is just part of a massive jigsaw puzzle. Therefore, don't get worried about this small little micro which is happening. Things will be better. The macro is a beautiful canvas, it's a beautiful picture. Life is a huge, huge canvas, and these small little jigsaw puzzles should not affect you because they are part of a wonderful picture that your life is. The next one is, I keep asking myself, why is it that I keep traveling? Why is it that I keep driving around the world? The answer which I get, this is part of the kind of introspection which I do. I sincerely believe that life is a continuum. It doesn't end with this life here on earth. It is a continuum. It is like a massive, let us say, a movie or a drama, which some cosmic power has created. We are all actors. We are given different costumes, we are given different dialogues, we are given fellow artists to interact with. We are told what time to enter, what time to exit. So after we play our part, our job is to play our part well. You have got your characters around you, you have the dialogue, you have the costume, you have the time. But then your role is your own to bring out. So therefore your job is just to play that role. And once you have played that role, you go back into the green room, change your costume, learn the new dialogues, and come back on stage with other actors to play the next role. So life is a continuum. So in this travel of these last many years, in fact, I have been traveling for more than 40 years now. Since I joined the railways, I have been traveling quite a bit, but it is these last 11 years that I have traveled by car most often. So I feel, with all these experiences that I have, that all these journeys are meant to identify fellow souls who travel with you through time and space. For instance, today I am addressing you. The opportunity that I have got today is possibly because we are all fellow souls who are traveling through time and space. It doesn't end with this talk, it doesn't end with this life, it goes on. So this is a kind of a very, very large kind of a philosophic belief that gets into you as you meet people. You meet people who you never thought you would, and they play very significant parts in not only that the journey, but also in your life later. I can tell you the case of Saroja Ratnam. She is a 90-year-old person who was my host in Singapore. I didn't know her from Eve, but a friend of mine put me in touch with her to stay as her guest for 3 days in Singapore. As I parked the car in her garage and got into the house, it was late evening, it was about 7:30, 8 o'clock. She cupped her hands over her eyes. 90-year-old lady, Saroja Ratnam. She cupped her eyes and then looked at me and said, "Son, I think I have met you somewhere." Now, she had left the shores of India more than 50 years back. When I was an adolescent in Trivandrum, no chance of ever having met. But it is this kind of a connect between souls that make you believe that you possibly have met with that person before. The last lesson which I have learned, I told you that I have done 13 road expeditions. I have driven around the country quite a bit apart from these expeditions. But if you will believe me, I will pass on a secret. Even today, I do not know how to change the tire of a car. I know no mechanics. I know no electronics. Even today, I do not know how to take down the spare tire from the XUV that I own. For the last 5 years, that has been my faithful companion. When people ask me, why is it? Aren't you scared that something will happen to you? Well, I'm not scared. You know why? Because I feel that everything that we use, everything that we have around us, animate or inanimate, every one of them is the owner of a soul. Whether it is the watch that I wear, or the pencil that I use, or the mobile phone that I have, all of them have souls. If you respect those souls will remain with you. They will also respect you. How do they respect you? They give you trouble-free service. You take the glass of water that I have with me. Now, if I don't respect this glass and I nonchalantly drop it on the table, it will break. The water will spill. So, therefore, I have learned to accept the fact that everything around me has souls. And therefore, I respect them. And that respect gives me trouble free service, whatever implements that I use, and even from the people that who interact with me. This is what I have learned from my travel. These are the 10 great lessons, and I feel that travel has been a huge, huge plus for me in my life. It has helped me not only discover myself, but most importantly, it has helped me discover mankind in different zones. So, thank you for this opportunity for addressing this wonderful group. Thank you very much. There was one question which came up, which asked me what is it that has prompted me to travel. Uh, One of the things is that when we were growing up, I have a brother and a sister too, and my father was in government service, and my mother was a housewife. And during Christmas vacations, my father was in a very, very tough, stressful kind of a job. So during the Christmas vacation, my father and mother decided that they would spend quality time with their children away from the hubbub of Trivandrum where we grew up. So my father used to take us to Chennai by car. And we used to look forward to those 12, 13 days of vacation time in Chennai, including the travel time from Trivandrum. We used to travel from Trivandrum to Madurai and Madurai to Chennai. And the planning which went into those travels, like for instance, the those days, technology was. I'm talking about the 60s. Technology was not as advanced as what we have today. So my mother used to bake cookies and make cakes. It used to take about 2 to 3 weeks, and we as children, we had to help her out in the kitchen with all this. We never had fancy mixies and machines and things like that, so we had to help her out with all that. And besides that, this was also the time when my mother developed a lot of hobbies in us, like for instance singing or word building and those kind of things. So we had to make sure that we had enough batteries in our tape recorder. We had the right tapes with the right kind of music that we wanted to hear. All that was part of the planning process. So that went into building a kind of an excitement before the travel. And apart from that, the kind of experiences which we had, those days were when we had to use an ambassador car to travel on not so good roads between Trivandrum and Chennai. So all those experiences, eating food under these tamarind trees and all that, those were the kind of things which really developed that kind of an interest in travel during the early days, I would say. Is there any other question in the chat box?
Yes, sir. Shall I read it out, sir?
Yeah,
for you?
please.
So, Sadeem Firoz from History asked that, sir, you mentioned that how a person treats you is a reaction to your behavior towards them. But, sir, don't you think sometimes it's not us but them?
Well, that is where I said, it all depends on whether you want to be contented or you want to be frustrated. If you want to be contented, I somehow feel that you must internalize this much more. You have to look within yourself. I mean, nobody is perfect, and neither, nor are you. So you cannot say that everything is okay with me, it is the other person who is at fault. You can always, as long as you say that, sometimes the others can be wrong. And most of the time, I am. That is internalizing it. And therefore, I somehow feel that when you internalize these kind of things, you start to study as to why this kind of a process has happened, why this kind of communication has happened, why this kind of criticism has happened, or why this kind of action has happened. When you start looking at it, because you have to look at every conversation and every kind of a reaction, you should look at it more with your mind or with your brain than look at it from your heart alone. I feel that we need to invest a little bit of the intellect to decide on what is right or what is wrong. But in many cases, you can't say that somebody is right or somebody is wrong, because there are many shades of grey. So therefore, you have to find the contentment yourself.
Marianne from English asked that, sir, you mentioned that you don't know how to change a flat tire or spare tire. But on such long road expeditions, wouldn't this be an important part of your planning? Referring to the importance of time that you mentioned.
Yeah. Yes, I do take care of that as part of my planning because I always plan to drive during the daytime. I never drive during the night unless it is forced by circumstances. Otherwise, I normally drive during the daytime because I feel that particularly on Indian roads, you find that they are not so well done up. Plus, it's not lit up so well. Then you have these trucks which do not have rear lights. You will find cattle on the road, which of course does not. You cannot see very well in the dark. So I prefer to drive during the daytime. And when you drive during the daytime, if you have any problems, you will always find people on the road who will help you out. And it is not that I have not had a problem at all. In fact, on my All India trip, I had tire bursts in Manipur. But then you can always find people who will help you out with that. And there are many of these kind of circumstances which, despite all the knowledge that you have, with all the skills that you have, it is best left to somebody else to sort out that for you. So therefore, it is not that I have deliberately stayed away from learning how to change the tire. The fact is that I somehow feel that there are other people who will help you. I genuinely believe it, and I have got that help. So that is why it is part of the planning. Of course, as youngsters, you can take it up as an interest. You try to learn as much as you can about your about the car that you are driving. Believe me, there are a lot of people, because of my interest in travel, there are a lot of people who come to me and ask me whether an XUV 500 is better than a Ford Endeavour or better than an Innova. I will not be able to offer that kind of advice at all. I feel comfortable in the car that I have, and I make do with that. I am not one for very fancy, fancy vehicles or using anything very fancy. It should be functional, it should work well, and you should respect that machine which gives you the best service. That is all that I have to say about that. What made you think that mobile and other things
Thank
have
you,
a
sir.
soul?
Yeah.
They understand your kindness and respond without problem. See, this exactly, this flows from the question which you have asked, because when I treat these with respect, as I mentioned to you about the glass, if I don't respect this, respect in the sense that I don't use it properly. When I talk about respect, it is the kind of use that you put it to. Similarly, the car. For instance, the car that I use, I don't use it as a racing device. I use it as a means of transporting me from point A to point B. I respect the kind of road conditions that are there. I don't try to overcome them. I try to make sure that my car is comfortable on the kind of roads through my driving skills. That is what I mean by respect. Similarly, you can talk to anybody you want about the kind of qualities that you have in a phone. But the minute you start neglecting this and if it drops on the floor, it's gone. Which means that you have not given it enough attention. You have not given it the kind of respect that it deserves. So that is what I mean by giving it the respect. It is not, how is it that it is minding you? It is giving me trouble-free service. It has happened to me. In fact, there are times when there was one particular incident where I normally never do this, but then this was a call which I had from office, which was a very urgent call. And when I was on the drive, I picked up the phone to speak. And then the next thing I know is that somebody has brushed on the side of my car. I feel that I did not give enough respect to that car. I should not have answered the phone by neglecting my attention to that car, and therefore I scraped somebody else. So therefore, that is the kind of internalization which I do, and that is the kind of respect I feel the device I use needs. I hope I have made myself clear. The next one is what is the one place you haven't traveled but would like to go? There are many places. In fact, one of my bucket list items is to ensure that I travel to at least 100 countries before I so-called hang up my boots. But immediately, what I would like to do is to do extensive travel in Africa as well as in South America. These are the two continents I have not been to. So therefore, this is what I would like to. In fact, Africa I have been to, but I have never driven there, and also go to Antarctica. These are three projects that I have over the next 3 years. In fact, the Africa trip should have happened in 2020, but thanks to the pandemic that got cancelled, I hope 2021 will turn out to be better, and I would be able to do my Africa and South American drive, and possibly sometime next year the trip to Antarctica. So these are the kind of places which I would love to visit, and I hope Antarctica stays intact or the way it is till I get the chance to go there.
Yeah, so good afternoon, sir.
Afternoon,
I would really love, like, I mean, it was a really session, like a lot of encouraging take on those important lessons that we need to learn, and also about how we need to manage our time and how we need to have consistency, that will help us, have growth. I think those are important lessons that we need to learn and unlearn, certain patterns that we and behaviors that we have constructed. And so that was really nice. And I would like to thank all the students also. I mean, it was a really interactive session. And lastly, I would like to thank the principal for giving us opportunities like this, and the staff for managing and coordinating these sessions, that we could have them often. And I would also like to thank the finally I would like to thank the students for their time, and also for like attending and trying to make it very encouraging, and also with their questions and getting it clarified. So I think it was helpful for each and every one of us. And thank you so much, sir, for being here with us.
I'm
Yeah.
thankful to you for giving me this opportunity. Thank you so much.